Hi, this is Doug from the Flat Earth Workshop with some video from an old 1944 tank, courtesy of the International Armor Museum. You can see the incredible detail. Ah, I fooled you. You had no idea this was a 1/35th scale tank, did you, huh? Well, our guest builder today is Landon Ritterling. Hey, Landon, welcome back.
Hey, this is actually a kit from AFV Club, which is a pretty, I guess you could call it a micro brand in the modeling world. This is a really awesome kit that you can get for a pretty inexpensive price. I think I got this on eBay for 35 bucks or so. So you can really get some good deals on there occasionally.
All right, we're looking at these road wheels right now. What was the special treatment you did on the road wheels?
So just like before on all the other models, this is accumulation of various techniques. I did lots of washes. I put some pigments on there to give it some mud effects. And then I've done quite a bit of oil paint modulation.
Okay, well, looking in real close, we can see something that looks like mud here that's caked on. Is that mud material you're talking about?
Yeah, so I've used various different types of mud materials. I have some pigments, dry pigments from Vallejo models, but I also have some pastels, which I've scraped off and created my own pigments.
Now we're going to go look at the tank tracks. What was the special treatment that you did on the tracks to make them look so realistic?
So these are full model tank tracks, and if you don't know, they're pretty expensive. But they give a really beautiful depiction of what the tracks actually look like in the real world. And I painted them with my airbrush to kind of give them that worn effect, and then I went in with pigments and other things like oil paints and just kind of gave them some color modulation.
So you said they're kind of expensive. Is this something that you recommend other modelers go, or should they just stick with the original tracks?
Well, that's up to you, the individual modeler. The individual tracks that come with the model themselves are easier to put on. Usually they're rubber. However, the metal tracks really give an extra oomph to the tank. It's more heavy. The track sag is more realistic.
As we look at the upgraded cupola, this is different than the original, and I'm sure you probably know in what ways.
It's a late cupola, so you can see the hatch actually swings out to the right here based on this image.
Now, are those windows that we see though?
Periscopes, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's the same cupola that you see on Panthers and on the Tiger too. So they kind of standardized their usage.
Let's talk about the ZIMMERIT. Was this in the model, or is this something that you added later?
No, the ZIMMERIT did not come with the actual model. I went in and bought a ZIMMERIT tool from Tamiya, and I put on this ZIMMERIT with some putty and carved out the appearance that you see. It's complicated in a certain way that you have to figure out how to get the technique down. It came together all right.
So tell us about the technique. What exactly did you do?
So with the ZIMMERIT, I came up with a new technique. I found it online where you use this putty called Elmer's wood filler, which is kind of unusual, but you can get this big tub for about $5. And I applied it on the side of the model and used the ZIMMERIT tool to etch in the shape that you see in these images. So it's a little unusual. You have to get used to how you apply it, but what's really cool about the putty is that you can wash it off with water. So if you make a mistake, it can be erased.
Okay, I see some really cool chipping effects there, especially around the engine port, on the back, and the hatches.
So a lot of those were done with acrylics. Usually I use Vallejo because they are really great for using with brushes. You can mix them pretty easily, and there's a lot of, I guess, leeway that you can play with as you go along.
Now, is this the hairspray technique?
No, this is conventional additive chipping, so I did this all with paint. I'm workshopping the hairspray techniques, but I haven't really mastered it yet, so this is kind of the more conventional way of doing it.
Now, I see also where you have a lot of armor damage, bullet holes and dents and things like that. How are those done?
So with the side skirts in particular, I went in, so I cut them apart, and then I used some pliers to kind of dent them up, and I used my paints to kind of accentuate any of the dents and damage that you can see. Yeah, with the air cleaners, I used my pliers to really just kind of puncture it, just do some sort of deformation. So I didn't actually use any photo etch for this particular model, but I used the plastic to its best effect, hopefully.
Now I see you use the decals there, but then I see some denting and some scratching around the decals. How were those done?
Same idea. I used the Microsol products. I applied the decals, and then I put some Vallejo acrylic paints to kind of create some damage that you see. I think it makes a good effect of having them appear to be on the tank for some time instead of being freshly applied.
We're zooming in now on some of these weathering techniques that you used. Now, I do see a lot of rust. Rust for me in the past has been kind of difficult. How do you pull that off?
So with rust, I use multiple different things. I use Vallejo washes, which are easy to use, but the problem with them is they dry very quickly. The other thing that I use often are, like I always say, oil paints.
So can you give me a step-by-step on how you do this rust technique?
So for the rust technique, I use a few different products. I use the Vallejo washes, which are great for getting quick effects, but they dry quickly and you have to be really experienced to get the effect that you're trying to go with. Another more easy product to use, any sort of oil paints, which you can dilute with enamel thinner. And what's cool about those is that you can mix various color shades and tones very easily.
Now those oil paints tend to be kind of expensive.
Yeah, they can be, but if you go, say, to Michael's or Hobby Lobby, you can occasionally get some deals. I think I got a whole set of oil paints for about $10. They're not Winsor Newton paints, but they do the job.
Have you noticed it less capable?
Well, that's the point of contention with the modelers. Some people will say the finer grain that you have from the more expensive oils will give you a better result, but I found that the cheaper ones work just fine. That's for me, I guess.
Well, man, I tell you what, we love the model, and thanks so much for sharing it with us.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.